Dynasty the king.
He is known by many names. The talented Mr. Roto, Mr. 100, the host of the Fantasy Football Happy Hour, and many consider him, myself included, the GOAT of fantasy football analysts, the original. But the most important name is the name himself. We are joined by the man who is probably all four faces of fantasy football Mount Rushmore, Mr. Matthew Berry. Gentlemen, can we give it up for Mr. Matthew taking time to be in the studio with us? Matthew, how are you this fine day?
I'm good. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. That was a very kind intro. Very nice. Very generous.
Listen,
can I just call it a day now? Can we just, I think the interview's going downhill from here. Just like, great. All four faces of Mount Rushmore. God bless.
See you later.
We'll see you later. Thanks so much, Dynasty Exchange.
It's a fact. You can't argue with it. We have to show the proper respect when the reality is Mike has a relationship with you that goes way back. So opened a door for us that we would not be able to open for ourselves for quite some time. But yeah, man, all three of us are huge fans. I know for me, reading your love-hate articles early on, I'll never forget one of them you wrote about, I think it was tap water being sold as super expensive bottled water and just don't buy the name brand. I don't know if you remember that article, but that was one of many steps that got me super, super into this hobby. But I followed you a lot since your ESPN days. Recently, you just switched to NBC, and we all watched you at that Applebee's this past Sunday. I have to ask, how cool was that environment, that atmosphere after making a switch?
It was a lot of fun. It's great. You know, the fact of the matter is, and, you know, our mutual friend Michael can talk about this as well, as can a lot of other people that have followed our path, which is you get to ESPN and it's great. Nothing bad to say about the place. But those four letters carry a lot of water, carry a lot of weight for a lot of people. And there's a mentality internally at that building where it's just sort of like no one's bigger than that brand. And I'm not saying that I was or ever will be. But merely that just like there's kind of this hive mentality of like, don't leave the mothership. There's not life outside of ESPN. Like, you know, without ESPN, you're nothing. No one cares about you. They only care about ESPN. And so there were a number of people over the years, and I think Dan Patrick's probably the very first one that ever did it. But there were a number of people that have gone on that have left ESPN and had a lot of success outside of the company, Michael being one of them. And so, but, you know, you never know. But there's also, let's be clear, there's also people that have left ESPN and you're like, what happened to that person? Right. So, where are they now? So certainly when I left ESPN, I was nervous a little bit. You know, I felt like it was time for me to make a change, or a couple of things that I really wanted to, that were important to me, that necessitated the change. You know, I wanted to be a part of NFL coverage, and I thought I had a much better chance of doing that somewhere other than ESPN. I wanted to continue to pursue my side projects. It's something that Michael and I have in common. So I wanted to continue to itch that entrepreneurial side of myself and continue the work I'm doing with Fantasy Life and fantasylife.com. And so, and that was not going to be possible at ESPN. So I made the decision to leave, but you're always nervous. Like, yeah, or what if they were right? What if the only people care about me was because I was the fantasy guy at ESPN, and now that I'm a fantasy guy outside of ESPN, are they still going to care? Are they still going to find me? Are they going to show up? And they did. They have in droves. And so Fantasy Football Happy Hour does really well. Fantasy Football Pregame that Michael is the host of, that we do that show together, has done really well as well. And so, yeah, when you're like, hey, man, we're going to be broadcasting from an Applebee's, because the show is, of course, served by Applebee's. When you say, hey, I'm going to be, we're doing the show live at an Applebee's, but it's in like Northeast Philadelphia on a Sunday morning, at like 10:30 a.m. And you're like, oh, I hope people show up, because it's like, it's kind of out of the way, and it's like in this strip mall, and just we were overwhelmed by the amount of people that showed up. People that were like, I drove an hour, I drove 2 hours, I flew in for this. Like, it was, an outpouring of love, and we just had an absolutely raucous time. It was great. I think Applebee's was really happy. I know myself and Michael, Jay, and Lawrence, the four of us had an absolute blast. So the answer is really gratifying, and I think it's a kind of a microcosm of what I've experienced since I've left ESPN. When you do that, again, you're not sure how it's going to be received, and just the outpouring of love and support on social media, which is not always the nicest or friendliest place, was truly incredible. And then when I popped up on NBC, it was, it's been really cool. Just kind of the reception and people very excited for me and excited to see fantasy and sports betting talked about on football night in America. So, it's been a great year and a half so far.
No, it was really cool to see you last year on Sunday Night Football. I don't know if you know this. We briefly met. I opened a door for you one time downstairs in LA. It's kind of the same way I met Mike. It was super impactful for you, I'm sure, as well, whether you knew it or not.
I talk to my wife about that at least once a week.
I knew it. No, it's fantastic. But it was always cool because I think fantasy was always seen before you as like it's this nerdy thing that doesn't apply. But you dominated the Sunday Night Football picks last year. How validating was it to be a part of regular football programming and be the most spot on with the picks and some of the analysis as well?
You know what? Thank you for bringing that up. That was so impactful and important for me because you get to in all seriousness, right? So you get to football night in America and here's Tony Dungy. He's literally in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, right? He's a Super Bowl winning coach. And then you've got Chris Sims, who's pro quarterback for 8 years, right? He's Phil Sims' kid. He's NFL royalty. He's literally NFL royalty. You have Rodney Harrison, who should be in the Hall of Fame, right? I mean, one of the all-time greats at his position. So you have kind of these legends of football out there. You have Jason Garrett, who, was a very successful head coach in the NFL. He played the game, obviously, as well. He was a backup quarterback in the NFL, had a lot of success in college, had a tremendous amount of success as an offensive coordinator and then a head coach. And, let's be clear, Des caught it. So
come on,
I'll just say that, amen, right? Des
You're
caught
talking
it.
to Cowboy fans.
All three
I'm
of
just
us.
saying, and so anyway, you have like these, kind of legendary football minds there. And I'm the fantasy nerd. I'm the sports betting guy. And so no one at NBC has ever treated me this way. They welcomed me with open arms. And, it was great. I mean, like when I, first time I saw Michael, he was just like, dude, you're going to love it here, and first time I met Maria Taylor, because Maria Taylor and I never actually worked together at ESPN, even though our careers there overlap, but she was always on the road with College Game Day or the NBA, and I was always in the studio with my fantasy stuff. But the first time I met Maria Taylor, she hugged me and she goes, welcome home. You have no idea. And,
Wow.
and so getting there, so everyone at NBC has been very welcoming to me, but I know that the Football Night in America audience, which is massive, it's the second highest rated show on all of television, not sports, not football, on all of television. Literally the only thing higher rated than Football Night in America is the actual NFL game itself that comes on Sunday Night Football. And so whatever it is, 12 million people, 15 million people, however many people tune into that thing, they don't know, not all of them know who I am, but they know Tony Dungy, Hall of Fame coach. I mean, they know who Jason Garrett is. They've been watching football. They've seen him on sidelines forever and ever. They know who Rodney Harrison is and who Chris Sims is and all these guys that they've been watching year after year. And so for me, the fantasy nerd, to your point, to come in and sort of prove like, hey, I get it. I didn't play the game, but I understand the game and I know the game. And for me to win the picks title, and especially my first year, over everyone else, it was kind of like, I felt like I belong. You know what I mean? And again, no one at NBC ever made me feel that way. That's just my own neurotic, Jewiness. But it was something that was meaningful to me. So I appreciate the question, Josh, very much. And I can't tell you, just the other day, I was just like, my wife, Beth, was just, what are you doing? I said, I'm doing a podcast with Josh. He's like, is that the guy who held the door for you in LA? And I'm like,
I knew you remembered.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's like, well, say hi for me. So you come up quite a bit.
Give her my love. Thank you. Thank you.
She's a kind woman. Hey, Matthew, so I'll never forget in 2019, I'm sitting in the movie theaters and I'm watching the movie that we've all been waiting for, right? And randomly, and I'm sitting next to my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, wait a minute, was that Matthew Berry? And she's like, wait, who? I'm like, babe, the fantasy football guru, like that. I think that was Matthew Berry. And I had to wait till the end of the movie to confirm that was you. I say all that to say how, like, as you kind of look back on it, as a former Hollywood screenwriter, how cool is that to see yourself eventually being a movie as big of a movie as Avengers Endgame, to see kind of where you started off at and then to be in there and to have the select few, or not select few, but the fantasy football people all truly appreciate that.
Oh, cheering for you. No question.
Yeah, no, it was very cool. It is probably the best non-wife, non-kid experience and memory of my life. In all seriousness, and I always say, is it a bucket list moment? And the answer is no, because when you think bucket list is I want to climb that mountain, or, I'm going to go skydiving. No one says, before I die, what I'd really like to do is be in an Avengers movie. Right. So, I mean, it's just, it's so unfathomable that it even happened. And it is kind of crazy. And it's a really good example of my career. I was a Hollywood screenwriter, as you mentioned, I wrote on sitcom and movies. And so it's weird. I had to leave Hollywood to actually make it into a movie. Right. I mean, right. I mean, you see it there behind me. I had to leave Hollywood to win an Emmy. That's not for any of the thing I did as a screenwriter. That's from being a talent, an on-air talent at ESPN. And so it's incredibly gratifying to be that. And, as people know, look, we're all fantasy guys, right? We all look at the numbers, we crunch the numbers, and the fact of the matter is that Avengers Endgame is the highest grossing movie of all time worldwide. It's the only movie I've ever been in. So on a per movie basis, I am the highest grossing actor of all time worldwide.
I couldn't agree more.
Oh my.
Numbers
what
are
an
numbers.
Accomplishment.
Numbers are
I'm
numbers,
just
right?
saying. I mean, again, whatever. I mean, we can all talk about The Rock. The Rock is great. The Rock is amazing. But
He's no Matthew Berry.
I'm just on again, his total box office dwarfs mine. But on a per movie basis, my average box office is bigger than The Rock's average box office. If you put all the movies The Rock have been in together and divide it by that number to find out what the average box office of a Rock movie is, and then you take all the movies I've been in and divide that box office, the truth of the matter is my average is higher. It is what it is. Numbers are numbers.
Facts.
They don't lie.
Yeah.
Hey, quality,
Absolutely.
not quantity, right?
I'm just saying. Something to think about.
That's hilarious. Matthew, you referenced your wife multiple times now. Yeah. And listen, you're not just a fantasy nerd. You're the fantasy nerd. So I want you to speak to those fantasy nerds out there. All of us are married. Fantasy, like you, we talked about before the show. Mike, the reason why we're on the show is because Mike saw how much of degenerates that we are when it comes to fantasy football. And there's a lot of explaining that has to go down with our wives and why we're spending so much time on this sleeper app or talking on phones, negotiating not business deals, but trades, which are along the same lines, right? So how has your wife supported you? I mean, you're on the road for fantasy, you're going here for fantasy, doing that. So how has your wife supported you, and how do you kind of balance that or find that balance?
Well, it's a great question, and I'll say a couple of things. So first off, I mean, my wife and I have been together for over 15 years. So, but it's a second marriage for both her and I. And at the time that we got together, I was at a different stage of my career than you guys are. You guys are just starting out in our industry. At that point, we met at ESPN. She worked in a different department. She did international finance, but when we met, but the fact is that I was already I'm not what I am. I wasn't what I am now. It was early on in my career at ESPN. It was 2009, but it was, I was ESPN's fantasy guy. I'd already sold my website. I'd already been doing it professionally for a decade at that point. And I'd sold my website to ESPN. So she sort of knew the deal when we first started dating, right? I mean, so number one is I was sort of fully baked, right? The other thing that helps is obviously is it's my career. So it's like, what are you doing? I'm watching the game, honey. It's my job. I have to.
It's my go-to.
I have to talk on air about this game tomorrow.
The amount of times we tried to use that. It's my job.
It's my job. She knows. But I think the other thing is that the two other things that I'll say is that number one is I think, and hopefully all you guys have married well, that I've married well. And that, I think that most people that are in a relationship and their partner, hopefully loves you enough to support whatever you're passionate about. And that I'm sure that if your wives, I'm making it up, but if your wife came to you and said, you know what, I love Taylor Swift. I want to start a Taylor Swift podcast. I want to start the 8 billionth Taylor Swift podcast. But it's, because she's my life and I'm so passionate about it. I think you guys would say okay,
Yeah.
I support
Absolutely.
you. Go, like, do that. Figure this out. Let's figure out how to do it together. So when you guys say, "Hey, fantasy football is my passion," and yes, it's a crowded space, but we think we can find our way. We got a great start in a benefactor in Michael, and so, honey, I want to give this a shot. Yeah. So, hopefully I think there's that. The other thing that I'll say in terms of finding the balance, I think that's important. My wife ended up, saying I'll take it because she had to run an errand, but like I was going to be 10 minutes late to our podcast because I had to drop my daughter off at gymnastics, and I'll pick her up later tonight. She's got gymnastics practice. So I'll miss the first, I'll pause the game. She has to be picked up at 8:30. So I'll pause the game. I'm not going to watch it live. So I don't tweet during the game because I'm always like 10, 15, 20 minutes behind of the game. And I'll go and I'll pick her up and then, tuck her in tonight and, do the whole thing. And then when they're all done, then I'll watch the game with my wife. So, trying to, it's tough, but you always just try to find a balance and try to figure out a way to engage with your kids and your family.
No, that's great. And I think you spoke to it already. Like, we're trying to break through in a very crowded space. And the thing that Mike loved about us was the league we came from. And so we pride ourselves in what we do believe we have that's special is that we have built the best dynasty league in America, no question. But I wanted to ask you, what's the best league you've been a part of, dynasty or otherwise, just as a litmus test? Because if the GOAT of all fantasy, hasn't had the experience of the yacht club, we just want it as a measuring stick. So is there a league that sticks out to you that it's like the best league you were ever a part of, you still are a part of? And what was that like?
It's a good question. Different league. Yeah. Yes and no. I mean, I don't know that there's one league that I would say there's the greatest league. There are leagues that I care about a lot more than other leagues, I will say. But, in terms of sort of I've never had like just a great commissioner, and then it became my job. And so it just became like, there was no league that could ever, this applies to just playing fantasy football, but I always get questions about what's the best league you've won, and that kind of stuff. And I'm like, the best league I won is I became the fantasy football guy at ESPN. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, seriously, yeah. Like, I mean, like, at a time, I'm just being honest that like, because I was starting my career, I started out writing it for Roto World. And then I did that for 4.5 years. And I left to start my own website. And I did that for 3 years. And we raised no money. So it was entirely bootstrapped. And I was hustling around. I was writing for a bunch of different places. I was going on radio stations, doing all these local radio hits, just trying to like hustle, trying to build up the website, trying to build up my reputation as an analyst, as an expert. Eventually sort of, in 2007, ESPN kind of tapped me on the shoulder and because I'd been doing some work for them. I'd been doing a weekly cold pizza hit, which was the precursor to First Take. I'd been doing some stuff for ESPN, the magazine. I'd been doing, a weekly hit for ESPN News. And, and then, so they were looking around and they were like, we like all the work you've done for us. And like, we'd like you to be the Mel Kiper of fantasy football. We want to buy your website, move you to Connecticut, and make you the guy. In 2007, we've been looking for someone to be that person. And when that happened, that moment that the worldwide leader in sports, tapped me to be their fan, like, there's not a league that I could win that would mean as much as that. There's not even like, you see some of these high stakes leagues, like $250,000, $1 million for first place. And all seriousness, that I've experienced. I'm just saying, like, I could win. I work for DraftKings now. Like, I have a side deal with DraftKings. I could win a DraftKings Millie Maker tomorrow, and it would be awesome. I'm not turning down $1 million. Obviously, it'd be amazing. It'd be awesome. It would not mean as much to me as that.
Yep.
There's just, you know what I mean? So, and that's the truth, is that there's not a league in America that is better than being just sort of, the face of fantasy football for the largest sports media company in the world for 15 years. And now I'm the face of fantasy football for the best and biggest, pregame NFL show, in the world. So, there's just not, I will tell you though, there are, I'm in a Guillotine league right now. The league that I care the most about right now is actually a Guillotine league. I'm in a couple of dynasty leagues, which I care a lot about. I'm in 3 different dynasty leagues. one of which is with all my college buddies for over 30 years. So I like that. One is with a bunch of my buddies from ESPN. About half of us have left the company since, and half are still there. But like it's, a bunch of people that I worked with for a number of years. And then one is with a bunch of industry experts. Evan Silva, Scott Barrett, Graham Barfield, Pat Thorman, Rich Rebar, Lord Reeves. So a bunch of guys like that are in that league. And I've won that 2 of the last 4 years. So that's been really nice.
Well done.
And
by the way.
I should ask you guys what I should do here. Because I'm in an interesting spot.
Uh-oh.
I'll ask you guys what you think about the trade. I'll give you guys a trade in a second. But yeah, I'm in a Guillotine league right now with a bunch of heavy hitters and a bunch of guys, candidly, that are investors in Fantasy Life, in my company, Fantasy Life. So there's some celebrities, there's some VIPs in the league. And so that's important to me. Just because of the format of Guillotine, which is, for your listeners that aren't familiar, the format of Guillotine is that you draft a team like normal. Everyone in the league does. You set your lineup like normal. You don't play head to head. You just set your set your team like normal. At the end of the week, the lowest scoring team in the league is chopped forever.
Yeah.
And all the players on your team go into the free agent pool. So you'll be like, this past week, Austin Eckler was on the waiver wire. So you have $1,000 fab budget, and you're like, how much am I bid? It's week 7. How much am I bidding on Austin Eckler?
It's insane.
Does the fab renew every week? Like the fab renew? Oh, you have to use 1,000 the whole season. Wow.
So that's the key. It's such a mind F, you know what I mean? Because it's just because you're like literally the second week of the season, Justin Jefferson, the team that had Justin Jefferson got cut.
Yeah.
And so now you're like, do I blow $1,000 on Justin Jefferson and I have him for the rest of the season? But again, every week somebody's getting cut. So every week there's superstars in the free agent pool. And as it gets shorter and shorter and shorter, eventually you're going to be like in a 4-team league and a 3-team league. And you're going to need money to everyone's going to need to have a super team. And if you're out of money, then you're just, you know what I mean? And it doesn't matter if you have Justin Jefferson, because if you're starting I'm trying to think of a good example. If you're having to start Zach Moss, who's fine, you know what I mean? But he's not a starter in a 3-team league.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
do you empty the barrel to get there, or do you just try to save something so you can be great at the end? It's that balance.
Correct. But then again, you can't take it with you, and then bye weeks happen and injuries happen. And so then you're just like, oh man. We had a guy last week, and so I'm in 4 different Guillotine leagues, and I'm in one with all my buddies at NBC. And Michael turned us down, by the way. Just give Michael crap about that.
Priorities. He's got to prioritize Yacht Club.
Because the Yacht Club is that important.
I'm telling you, man, it's a different.
It's because the Yacht Club is that important, man.
Fair enough.
We talk to Mike every day, and it's trades, not the show. It's like he's dialed.
If you guys haven't experienced this yet, I'll just tell you right now. I was talking to somebody who's in a league with him, and I just said, I'm in a show league with him right now. This actually came on my show, on my daily show, Happy Hour. Somebody made a joke, I forget who Michael has. I think Michael might have Puka in our league or something. He has somebody really good in our league. And so someone's like, I might need to trade Michael for Puka. And I said, I'm just giving you fair warning. Trading with Michael is exhausting. I'm just listen, I love the man. I've played fantasy with him forever. I will play fantasy in a league for him. I love the man, but trading with him is exhausting. And he would admit that as well, I believe. It's just because he is a wheeler dealer. And it's kind of brilliant.
Can I tell you a story?
Down. What?
He's tenacious.
Yeah, can I tell you a story? He came into our league and he had the 101. And he and I spent maybe every single day for a month. I was coming after that pick, and we literally had probably maybe an hour worth of conversation on a daily basis in order for me to get that pick from him. Yep. But it really is that long of a process, I fully respect it. And yes.
1,000%. Oh yeah. It's make no mistake. So at any rate, the Guillotine League. So it's just one of the guys in my Guillotine, in the NBC Guillotine League, last week. Jamar Chase was on. Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon were both on a bye, as were I'm trying to think who else. There was like there are three big players. I forget who, but like whatever. Joe Mixon and Jamar Chase were both on buys, and he went out and got both of them. And I'm like, he spent big money. He's just like, I just got to survive the week. I'm like, you're spending a lot of money, for guys that aren't even going to help you this week. He's like, I just got to survive the week. And by the way, as you and I were taping this on a Monday night, he's one of the bottom 3 teams heading into Monday night. Like he may not survive the night. So, and I'm really rooting for that, honestly, if I'm being honest, because it would just, but yeah, so it's a total mind, because you got to get through the week, and you're just like, anyway, so it's an unbelievable format. And so for me, that's my most current important league, if you will, because of just the intensity of it, because like one bad week, like I have Bijan Robinson in that league, right? Like Bijan Robinson, if you're watching this 3 weeks from now, like this past Sunday, Bijan Robinson didn't show up on the injury report, was fine, got 1 carry, played 10 snaps. And you're
insane,
like,
devastating.
Insane.
Why do we do it? Yeah.
All right. So I have and this is like a 13, 14 team league at this point, because you start with like 18. And so, we started late in the season. We started like week 4 or 5. So like, whatever. It's like, it's pretty deep. Like I can't afford a 0 from Bijan is my point.
No.
And, so number one, it's just the sweat of, am I going to survive the week? And then in this particular one, because it's all the people that invested in me, it's all these celebrities and VIPs that invested in fantasy life. It's like, I can't be one of the first ones out. Like, wait, who do we give our money to?
No, exactly.
This a-hole can't even beat a bunch of celebrities. Yeah. And
it's about the brand
executives.
Speaking of you mentioned.
So far I'm alive,
moments.
by the way. So far I'm alive. Lamar Jackson
Never
bailed out the
doubted.
Bijan team. Thank God.
Never doubted. I mean, you talked earlier about bucket list on Avengers and like never being able to foresee that coming. You teased it for a second, and I hope you didn't forget, because you were like, hey, I'm going to ask you guys advice for a trade. I would probably be okay dying in a car crash immediately following this if you were to ask our advice on a trade, because that's like what we do here on this show. So
you bet.
If you would please.
So here we do. Here's the deal. 12-team super flex league with tight end premium scoring. 33-man rosters plus 3 IR spots. So
Dynasty.
It goes deep.
Yeah.
Josh is like, not that deep.
Well,
36-man rosters.
The premium? Is it a full additional PPR to the tight end? Is it 1.5? Is it
1.5?
2? Okay, 1.5. Okay. Yeah.
So
all right.
It's PPR scoring, super flex, but 1.5 points for tight ends. Okay. I've won this league 2 out of the last 4 years. I have led in total points all 4 years. The league started 4 years ago. Dominating. I mean, the first year I lost in the finals by 0.5 point on Monday Night Football.
Oh my gosh.
Long story. Very painful. I led wire to wire. Year 2, I won the title. Year 3, I lost in the semifinals, but had the best team. Just bad luck. That was the COVID year, and so it was like it was the week that like Eckler, Kelsey, and somebody else had COVID, and I also have Mahomes on my team. So it's like I lost like 4 players to COVID.
Brutal.
And lost in the semis. And then last year I won. So I'm 2 out of 4. So I've won 2 out of the 4. I have a really good team, but it's an older team. Here's the core of the team. Again, it's, and I don't have a ton of depth. The core of the team is I have Mahomes and Purdy as my quarterbacks.
That's good.
I have I have Eckler, and then a bunch of crap at running back. Like piecing it together. Jerick McKinnon, he's who helped me win the title last year. Obviously, you remember the down the stretch, how good McKinnon was down the stretch. But it's like Jerick McKinnon, Deontay Foreman, Ezekiel Elliott, who got old. Zeke was useful, but obviously the last couple of years he's been great. So it's guys like that, and I have like the Jamal Williamses of the world. Like, no one good. It's Eckler and junk. Wide receiver, I have Cooper Kupp, my little Cooper Kupp, and Mike Williams, obviously out for the year at this point. And then like the rest of it is I don't have like Michael Gallup, Brandon Cooks. Like I don't have a lot of depth. I don't have a ton of depth. Where the strength of my team is, and I'm pulling up my roster here to see if there's anyone that I'm forgetting that's important. But the strength of my team is tight end. So I have Kelsey. So I have the Mahomes Kelsey stack in a tight end. Again, it's a tight end premium league.
Makes sense.
And then I also have I have Darren Waller and Zach Ertz.
This is
so yeah. I mean, there's no one else that's any good in terms of. I mean, yes, I'm looking at my running back, Samaje P. Ryan, like guys like that. You know what I mean? Like, so it's all. So. Yeah, so hang on, I'm just seeing something. Okay. All right. So anyway, so the question is I think it's been a tough start to the season. I was hoping to hold on for one more year. But Kelsey missed week 1. Kupp missed the first 4 games. Eckler missed like 5 games there. Right? Mike Williams out for the year. Like I said, I don't have a ton of depth. Again, it's a super deep league too. I mean, so it's like, like I got like Nick Westbrook Aquino. Like it's that kind of league where, where like Nick Westbrook Aquino is on somebody's roster, right? Zach Pascal. Like, there was a bidding war for Trenton Irwin. Like it's that kind of league. And so so my question is, so I've been offered a trade, or I've offered a trade to Rich Rebar, Lord Reeves, who's going for it this year. So I sort of announced, I think I don't have the horses, especially with Mike Williams out. I don't think I have the horses to make it this year. So I'm sort of like, you know what? Better to just sort of wave the white flag and just rebuild. Because I feel like in Dynasty, that's the worst thing is you want to do is like if you're a year too late to tear it all down.
I was just about to applaud your awareness because so many people can't come to that conclusion until it's too late.
I mean, honestly, again, because I was hoping to, if everyone had stayed healthy, Kupp and I thought Williams was going to have a good year. Kupp and Williams, Eckler, and I was going to try to piece it together at running back for a second running back. I would have traded for somebody. I like trading my picks. I
do need to ask though, did Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce yesterday doing what they did that give you any life? Like, did that give you any feeling of like, man, do I got to go for it now?
You know what? I thought about it. The truth of the matter, it's so stupid. This is so like dumb stuff. But I didn't start. I had Deontay Foreman. I had Deontay Foreman in that league, and I bet he was on my bench. And the reason is because it's such a deep league, and I'm in 17 leagues. I have Jamal Williams on IR, and Jamal Williams got activated on Thursday, and I didn't have a chance to take him off the IR.
Due to clean up.
So I have an IR violation, so I couldn't. The game started, and so I can't move him off of IR and drop somebody. And then I can't change my lineup because I have an IR violation. So I had to just go with the lineup from the week before where Deontay Foreman was out. So I missed out on that. So I'm going to lose. I'm down coming into tonight. I'm down 20 points and I have Purdy. So maybe I'll win tonight. But no, because I'm in last. And I just... here, I'll tell you, like Rebar's team is really good too. He's got Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, Keenan Allen, Hollywood Brown, Tyreek Hill, Jacoby Myers, Hawkinson. He's got Burrow on a bye. He's got Cousins. Pickett's his third quarterback. He lost Chubb for the year, and he has Mixon on a bye. Like he's got a really good team. He traded some picks to get Aaron Jones and maybe Keenan Allen this year. But anyway, Rebar's got a really good team. So like I'm not beating that team. You know what I mean? That's who I beat in the finals last year was Rich. And so we have a deal. This is a trade offer. Cooper Kupp and Travis Kelce and Brandon Cooks. That's who I send. I don't care about Cooks.
Sure.
Here's who I get back. Hawkinson, Marquise Brown, Christian Kirk, and I think that's it. Hang on. Hawkinson, Kirk, Hollywood Brown, and Terry McLaurin.
Absolutely not.
We're all going to have a reaction to this. Davis, I'll get your take first, but two things you mentioned in that. One, To every fantasy listener out there, even Matthew Berry struggles at times with the start sit and the IR situation. So you just forgave everyone because you are the standard. So thank you. If I ever make that mistake, I'm going to say even Matthew did. Davis and I had the same reaction. Davis is the self-proclaimed value king of this show. He plays the man, not the cards. He builds super teams because of it. Davis, please take it away.
Yeah, I don't see anything coming back like a player. And granted, I get that Travis Kelce and Cooper Kupp are getting old, and I get that Cooper Kupp has been dealing with some injuries. But at the same time, those are two players that until they're done playing the game are going to be positional advantages. And then on the back end, you're getting players that it just doesn't seem like an overwhelming offer that you're getting two players that on any given week can win you a week. So for me, it's like that's giving somebody not a guaranteed championship, but I feel like you being somebody who's scored the most points 4 years in a row, like you should be getting more. You should be getting more.
Yeah, I wish. The challenge is, this is something you guys like, the market is soft. There's not a lot of people. Fair. I mean, like the truth is like, I wonder if I can find the offer. So I'm with you. My thought was, I went back and forth on this because I'll just tell you how I broke it down in my mind. I actually, and so do Rich and I have talked about this, I actually think Hawkinson is more valuable than Kelce. He's he's 8 years younger. Again, and you have to think about a dynasty, not this year, but I'm just saying like, Kelce's 34.
Yeah.
I know he's just had the monster game, but you could make an argument that Hawkinson plus an 8-year advantage is as good as Kelce in a tight end premium. You're disagreeing, Josh, but it's like, just so you know, for whatever it's worth, Rich, that's how Rich feels. And I don't disagree strongly with that.
But you're the kingmaker, right? This was your rival you lost to in the championship, correct? Hawkinson.
I beat him last year. And I wouldn't say he's not my rival. Like Rich is a good dude.
No,
like he's a really sharp fantasy analyst. He's not my rival. He's not like that guy. Like
correct me if I'm wrong. If you trade away Kelce in this deal, he becomes easily the favorite to win the whole thing, right?
1,000%.
So why are you not taxing him for that price? Because you're becoming the kingmaker in this deal. It says, hey, you do get younger with Hawkinson. The reason I'm out on the Hawkinson and my reaction is not because Hawkinson isn't good, but how many years are we going to hear about the Hawkinson potential breakout? We're coming up on year 5 of it. So he's a great player. Yeah.
Last year.
In a year where scoring was down. I know, but scoring was down.
He was like he was a top 4 fantasy tight end from the time that he got to Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
No, he totally was, but comparative to historical scoring, it was still a lower tier than if Andrews had a normal year. So the reason I'm against it is simply because, and we talk about in our league the Davis tax. If you're making him a champion, it's got to feel overwhelming. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Tax the rich.
Lived in Texas.
Does he have a pick to throw you, Matthew?
Yeah.
Does he have a first-round pick to throw you in 25, 24? I mean, 24
yeah,
picks right now.
He offered me a first-round pick in 2025. He traded most of his 24 picks. Gotcha. So it'll be a high pick in 25. But he offered me a let's see.
Dylan loves the Christian Kirk of that deal.
I was just about to say, I'm all for the trade. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, he offered his initial offer to me was Kelce and Kupp for Hawkinson, McLaurin, and a 2025 first, or Hawkinson, McLaurin, and Jacoby Myers. I'm like, Jacoby Myers does nothing for me personally. Marquise Brown is 26 and still a number one, whether he resigns with Arizona or goes someone else. He's an alpha. McLaurin's 27 or 28. Should still continue to be, you know what I mean? It gives me in a deep league, it gives me 3 usable starters. Christian Kirk's 26.
I think you convinced me.
I was just about to say,
just with how deep the league is, I think you've convinced me, Matthew.
Yeah, and I think Matthew, I think you're getting 3 solid
I'm not saying I love the trade, but just to give you an idea of like just what this league is like. So Scott Barrett over at Fantasy Points, he's the commissioner of this league. Him and TJ Calkins, his partner, and they offered me. They wanted Cooper Kupp, Travis Kelce, and Zach Wilson. I also have Zach Wilson. Whatever.
Okay.
For flyer, I like it.
A 2024 round 1 pick, a 2024 2. Again, it'll be a high pick. They have a good team. Jahan Dotson and Kylan Granson.
Okay,
Yeah.
if that's the competitive
no, that's
Disrespectful.
deals that you're getting,
That's nowhere
then
close.
And
I
no
get
one
what you're
else,
saying,
like
Matthew.
I put it out there. I put it out there to the group chat. Like, guys, I'm waving the white flag. Come get Kelsey. Come get Cooper Kupp.
Mhm.
And these are the only 2 offers that have come in. I can rattle some more cages.
Yeah.
Sure.
But most of the people have said, most of the reaction has been. So this is a good theory question, right? Most of the reaction so far has been, and maybe I'll just hold on to it and wait till we get close to the playoffs and people, because we don't have a trade deadline. So maybe people get desperate.
Oh yeah.
Right. But what was I going to say?
You're carrying the risk of Travis Kelce and Cooper Kupp playing into the end of the year.
There's
injured.
that, but here's the other thing. So most of the people in the league are like, half the league people are like me, just like, this ain't my year. So I'm not going to give up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give up future assets for guys to help me get to 4th this year or 3rd.
Gotcha.
Like, it's not my year. So there's only a handful. There's only like 3 or 4 teams that think they have a shot. And those teams are mostly like, no, I'm good. Again, Barrett's one of them. There's another team, that Dynasty Trades podcast. And I offered them, I thought this was a fair deal. They didn't want to do it. I offered them Cooper Kupp for Justin Jefferson straight up. I'm like, look, you guys are going for it. Jefferson might miss the year.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to go send that out in our league, the Yacht Club, right now, and I'm going to see if that gets accepted.
You'll get
but I mean, they turned it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my argument is just, if you're going for, I mean, again, they were like, we'd rather have Jefferson for the next decade, which I'm like, I get that. But I'm like, flags fly forever. You know what I mean? Like,
That's true.
Again, I think this is a mistake too many dynasty managers make too. Number one is, I think you're right. I think they don't pull the plug too early enough. And then they're stuck with just depreciating assets that they can't sell. And then they don't have enough draft picks or draft capital to rebuild quickly. And then they're just stuck in purgatory for years and years and years. So that's number one. The second mistake I think they make is that they get too precious about, like, well, again, and I have a different attitude, right? But like, if I was reversed and I was just like, and I thought, well, it depends on whether you think Jefferson's playing again this year or not. Yeah. I think there's a legit chance, and you saw the Schefter report, I think there's a legit chance for multiple reasons on both sides that Jefferson doesn't play again this year. Mm-hmm. I think on the Jefferson side, like, he wants a big deal, and they haven't given it to him, and like, the team's going nowhere. But we'll see. We're taping this just before the Vikings play the Niners. And if the Niners embarrass them tonight on Monday Night Football, which I bet happens, because they just got embarrassed by Cleveland the week before. Niners are mad. If that happens, there comes a time where Minnesota's like, this may not be our year. And there's a lot of rumors out there that they want to move on from Kirk Cousins after this year. We're in a year where Caleb Williams and Drake May are coming out, and like, it's a really rich class. And so if you're the Vikings, you're like, maybe we should keep Jefferson on the sideline, and we're going to move on from Kirk, and maybe they see if somebody wants to trade for Kirk or whatever. Kirk said he's not going to waive his no trade clause. There's enough money that Kirk will, there's always a deal to be had there if somebody's desperate enough. So if you think that Jefferson, if and maybe, you find out when it's getting it, but like, my point is that, to your point, Kupp probably has 2 good years left, maybe 3. Jefferson's got 10.
Yeah.
But if you think like, hey, I just lost the best player on my team, here's a guy that's going to put up same numbers. I mean, Kupp actually was better than Jefferson last year on a points per game basis.
Yeah.
No, anyway,
he was.
So my point is like, I didn't blame them for turning it down, but I also didn't think it was an outrageous offer, because again, I think that there's a chance, because in Dynasty you get such a short window to try to really
win.
Again, I mean, like, I'm a perfect example. In this particular league, I have literally had the best team for 4 straight years. Zeke was running, like, when Kelsey was hot. Waller, I ran that. Ertz was awesome. Cooper Kupp, Eckler. I mean, the 2 18 touchdown years from Eckler, like, again, just crushing people. And yet, even with that, and I have Mahomes. I've had Mahomes, and I had Ryan Tannehill. I just traded Ryan Tannehill for Cedric Tillman and a pick. Getting something for Tannehill, but and I didn't need him because of Purdy. But my point is like, Tannehill was a top 10-ish quarterback there for a little while. So anyway, I just had a really great run, and even during my great run, where I had most points 4 years in a row, I only have 2 titles to show for it. It's hard to win a title. And so I think too many people are like, well, I want to hold on to my young assets. And then they finish second and third for 3 or 4 years in a row. And you're just like, well, what do you have to show for it?
Yeah.
Well, you still got your young assets. Like, again, what's the whole point? You're building a team to win a title.
Yeah. No,
so
it's a
so
tough
the argument
conundrum.
is, and then I'll shut up here and I'll let you guys all talk on your own podcast. But
this is fantastic.
What I was going to say is that what I'm struggling with is that I agree with you. I think I would like more for Cooper Kupp and Kelsey. I mean, right? But the market isn't there. Too many people are like, either we have, like the Dynasty team, the Dynasty podcast guys, they should be going for it. And they have a good team. They've done a really nice job of building their team. But like, I don't think they're better than Rich's team. So like they need something to put them over the top, and they just lost Jefferson, and maybe they've lost him for the year. Who knows?
Here's something that I got to ask you.
Yeah. I was just going to say, my point is that, so I have a choice in essence. I can try to continue to drum up a market, but in essence, I can either take below, quote unquote, below their normal value, but market value is whatever somebody's willing to pay. So that's what I'm struggling is, do I just say, yeah, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to reload. I'll tank for this year. I still have my first and second for next year. I traded my third and fourth away, and I have a fourth as part of the Tillman trade. So I have a first, second, and fourth for next year. So maybe I just, get
the appreciating assets.
I'll tank this year. I'll keep all my assets. I keep Kelsey, Kupp, Mahomes, all those guys, Eckler. See who comes out with pick 1 next year. Maybe I'll have the first or second pick, and maybe I grab Caleb Williams, or maybe somebody trades me a boatload to get that pick, and I can rebuild quickly. And then, then I've got one more year of like Kelsey and Kupp and all those guys.
Yeah.
No, it's that type of theory, that type of gamesmanship is what the show is all about. Listen, Matthew, we're coming up on the top of the hour. Davis has one more question, whether we conclude, but do you have a hard out? Are you able to roll with us just a little bit longer?
I'm okay for a little bit.
Awesome. Davis, I know you had a question. Listen, you've given us so much.
He answered. Yeah. He answered what I was going to ask.
Yeah. I mean, Matthew, a question I would have, you mentioned.
So now that I've given you all that context, now what would you do? So I'm on the fence with this one. I really am. I don't love the offer, but I don't hate it. And it's the best one I've gotten so far.
I think between the Hollywood and the Kirks of the world. So you said it was Hawkinson, Hollywood, Kirk, and
McLaurin.
Between the Kirk and the McLaurin, I would look to drop one of those guys and see if I could get something that is like liquid. Specifically, I probably wouldn't want Terry McLaurin, but it doesn't sound as though they would substitute their 25 first, which you're saying is going to be projected late because it's a tank of a team. But I would look to get maybe 3 of those players, or even 2 of those players, and then a 1 and a 2, rather than getting. But I understand that you're saying you would rather have the depth, right? So, I mean, that's just kind of
here's
where.
The other thing about our league. Which is a weird thing. This is a wrinkle that I didn't tell you. Our draft happens before the NFL draft. So you have to draft rookies without knowing what NFL team they land on.
That's when judging talent comes in handy.
Right, exactly. I mean, just to give you an example, whatever it was 2 or 3 years ago, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was the 10th pick in the draft. Now, again, it hasn't worked out, but had you known, if it'd been after the draft, CEH would have been the 101. He's going to be the starting running back on an Andy Reid offense, right? I mean, again, that, you know what I mean? So it's just like, there's weird,
sometimes landing spots a trap, though.
Will Levis went like 3rd overall this year because, again, because everyone's desperate for quarterbacks, and people thought, Malik Willis was the 101 the year he came out.
Yep. Drake London.
Brutal. That's brutal.
I mean, like Bijan was 101 this year, but Kyle Pitts went ahead of Trevor Lawrence in this league. Like, you've got to. So it's an interesting league because it's a bunch of people who really know what they're doing, but it's an industry league and it's a public league. So anyone can go and find the link and look at everyone's rosters. So I think there's a little bit of people trying to show off a little bit and, peacocking, if you will, for their followers and for engagement. We've got Davis Maddock and CJ Kaltenbach, Siege, on Twitter, the Siege. Both those guys are not afraid to mix it up on social media. Both those guys have non-mainstream views of players, and so it's interesting, right? So it's interesting. When Pitts went ahead of Lawrence, everyone thought he was crazy. Siege is the one who did that. He was public about it. Everyone thought he was crazy. Then after the first year, Trevor Lawrence with Urban Meyer was a disaster, and Kyle Pitts has 1,000 yards, and everyone's just like, "Wow, Siege is a genius." And now you're like, "Siege, what were you thinking?" Right?
What were you doing?
The roller coaster of dynasty.
So that's dynasty.
Yeah, I would say, just to touch on that trade, I think I'm in the boat that I would probably do it because of McLaurin, Kirk, Brown. At any point, those guys, there's not a likelihood that they're depreciating assets. If anything, they could go up in value. Whereas Cooper Kupp probably maxed out at this point. Travis Kelce probably maxed out because of age. And I think the direction you're going, I'm all about accruing younger receivers or receivers in general because of how much they hold their value. So, and like everything you laid out about the market and the league dynamic, it just makes sense. It doesn't sound like you're going to get a better offer than that. Definitely not with picks. So I don't hate it.
Yeah, I mean the truth is that probably the best idea is probably just to this is the danger, right? This is the poker,
Dangerous.
right? If I tell Rich, hey, I'm out, let's revisit this in 4 weeks, Rich may be like, nah, I'm good. Again, there's a chance that Kelce, Kelce gets injured. I mean, Kupp and Kelce have both missed games due to injury this year. So there's a chance that at some point that happens, even if they're going to miss a couple of weeks. If those couple of weeks happen during the playoffs, I'm effed. And there's a chance that, he just says, screw it. And this is the other thing on Dynasty, because there are other teams in my league that are selling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So now you're like, so if Rich Rebar is like, hey, I'm willing to deal Hawkinson for an asset. And, like the guy who traded him, Aaron Jones, Graham Barfield, he's also he's rebuilding. He's got Mark Andrews. I don't know. Does Rebar say, I'll give you Hawkinson and something else for Andrews and, another one of his older pieces? Like, you know what I mean? So it's all that kind of that chess, because, you're bidding on both sides. You want the best offer possible, but you also don't want to get outbid by somebody else saying like, yeah, I won't hold you up for a 1. I'll take Marquise Brown because.
Yeah.
Davis, have you given your official stance, or did you change as the market changed as well? I didn't catch that.
He changes by the minute.
I do change by the minute. I move as the markets move. But What I will say is that I think I would go back and I would try and get a 1 included and drop one of the receivers.
25. You're taking a 25 first over like a Marquise Brown?
Yeah.
For the way that his roster is currently constructed, yeah, I probably would. I would more so want to drop Terry McLaurin. I don't want Terry McLaurin over at 25 first. And just the liquidity of the pick, even if it's before the NFL draft, that to me is something that would be more interesting. But if they're not willing to come off the price, I think it's smart for you, Matthew, to take that deal. Yeah. I mean, it sucks losing Kupp and it sucks losing Kelce, but at the same time, you're having a clear directional shift. You can't get caught in the middle.
They're both ticking time.
No,
bombs.
I can't. The challenge is just like if you do the deal with Brown, McLaurin, whatever. In essence, that's a mini rebuild, right? And Hawkinson.
Yeah.
If you're doing it for the 25 first, then you're just like, I'm just tanking for then you're just trying to like.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know what I mean? Because like.
That's fair.
Productive
again,
struggle.
The 25 first. Think about this past year, right? Think about this past year again. You don't know the teams. 25, a late 25 first, a late first this year. Could have been Quentin Johnston.
Yeah.
We're still waiting, right? I mean, like,
or Devon Achane.
I would say the 24 class is
Devon Achane. So again, it's like, right?
The 24 class is the class you want to accrue picks in because it's pretty much, yes, it's a safe dart throw. I will say the 24 class.
Famous last words. I want to answer your question real quick, Matthew, before we move on, because I do have another question, but I love what you did and how you broke down the league dynamic, the league context. That's what we're trying to do here on the Dynasty Exchange because every league is so different. My original answer changed as well because when you're playing with all sharps, it's not like you're going to have the inside lane on a bunch of like the Puka Nakuas of the world, the Kyron Williams, the hidden gems where usually there's always one or two guys in the league that are ahead of the news. In this league, you're not going to be. So getting guys like Christian Kirk and Marquise Brown, instead of just, I don't want to say play the hero running back position with other positions, my advice would be no to the trade because you have the absolute unicorn based on your league scoring format in Travis Kelce. And if you time the market later, I would rather pay Travis Kelce and Cooper Kupp for Justin Jefferson and some small sweetener, because it's usually easier to build around a superstar. And then you, being the analyst you are, find a hidden gem. But the problem is all those guys know how to find hidden gems. So it's a challenging conundrum. Me personally, I'm out on Hawkinson long-term. I think he's always going to be middle tier. Essentially to me, he's the Greg Olsen of this generation. He'll always be near 1,000 yards, always be near 6 to 7 touchdowns. If
Disrespect?
It's not disrespect.
No, but that's not a bad place to be, because it's rare that you're going to find a Travis Kelce. I mean, we thought that we were going to have another one with Kyle Pitts, and we've been through the ringer with Kyle Pitts. So
comparing Travis Kelce is just not fair.
Yeah,
TJ Hawkinson's a top 5 dynasty tight end. I mean, and so that at the end of the day, he's getting a top 5 dynasty tight end and multiple receivers. So
I just want to stand on my principles. The last question I kind of have for you, Matthew, is you talked about guillotine leagues kind of already. You've always been an innovator because you're the experiencer. Where do you see fantasy going in the future? Obviously, sports betting is becoming legal everywhere, but specifically for just like dynasty, like PPR, like you saw the rise of that. Where do you see fantasy changing over the next 5 years, like in how people experience it and play it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just becomes more ubiquitous, and I think obviously there's going to be a real blending of sports betting. You're already seeing some of the quasi fantasy games that involve parlay picks and everything like that. So I think there'll be different formats. Guillotine is the thing I'm most excited about. I've seen the rise of Dynasty. I've seen the rise of Best Ball, both of whom, which I think are both great formats. And I honestly think Guillotine is the next one. I think there's some other interesting formats as well. I think parlay games will be a big thing. I think that being able to be more social, having more better technology as well. I think they'll be integrated more into broadcasts, into
how we watch
production, if you will, into content, I guess is a different way to say it. But there's all sorts of different ways to play that I think will be kind of innovative as well. I don't know that, I don't think people are, again, we've seen Best Ball, we've seen Dynasty, Guillotine starting to take off. There's some others as well. Like, I've a lot of people that are, I don't think what to call it. Like, I've heard people, there's a survivor version of fantasy football where you can set whatever lineup you want, but you can only play that player once during the year. So you're like, right, like again with Justin Jefferson, like, if you're like, I'm holding out Nick Chubb till his, week 8 game against the Cardinals, and you're like, oh, you missed out on Nick Chubb, right? So it's brutal. That's when, so there's different formats that are a lot of fun as well. But I think it just becomes more and more popular as we, as a society and a community, get more disconnected, right? I mean, like more and more Zooms are happening, and Microsoft Teams and podcasts where everyone's in their own home, things that connect all of us, right? Things that connect all of us, which is what fantasy football does, right? Yep. The way you guys have all remained such close friends is your league. I think those will continue to become more and more important.
Yeah. Yeah. I do have one final question for you, Matthew. Yeah. We've had this thing running for maybe the last 3 weeks since Christian McCaffrey has really started to just kind of solidify himself as my fantasy football GOAT. And I've talked with Mike about this on air, and he's adamant that I am wrong about that. I'm curious, who is your fantasy football GOAT? Greatest of all time. I mean, I think you've been doing this forever. Fantasy football GOAT.
LaDainian Tomlinson.
That is what Mike said. So it sounds like I'm wrong. I'm going to trust the professionals, but thank you for settling that.
No, I mean, listen, McCaffrey's on a short list, but he missed 2 full years. And that's the thing. I mean, the thing about Tomlinson is it wasn't just the production, but he did it every year for 7 straight years.
Yeah.
It was at a time where if you got the number 1 pick, you took Tomlinson, and you were basically guaranteed to be in your finals, because offense wasn't as explosive back then as well. Tomlinson was every year there's a different 101, and Tomlinson was like the 101 for many, many years in a row. So.
Yeah. Well, I think you both answered it wrong. I think the fantasy football GOAT just joined us on the show. Thank you again, Matthew Berry, for your time. your endorsement. We look forward to maybe interacting with you again, whether it's on social media or otherwise. If you haven't checked out Fantasy Life by Matthew Berry, I read it every single day. It's how I somehow come off as passable on this show. So Matthew, thank you again for joining us.
Guys, this is such a special occasion until I had to jump in on this. Y'all just basically met the Pope of fantasy football, Matthew Berry. My man, Matthew Berry. Shout out to Matthew. I appreciate you blessing the Dynasty Exchange. Wonderful, wonderful interview. You guys almost sound like y'all been trained by professional journalists. You have such thoughtful questions. But I'm going to go down the line, man. Davis, you first, then Dylan, then Josh. But Davis, you first. What was your biggest takeaway from your conversation with Matthew Berry?
I think it further perpetuates that we are all just degenerates that love this passionate thing that keeps us all together and that keeps us in community, where we get to be amongst friends, but also have a competitive edge and also have, just to hear him talk about all the different leagues that he does as well. And his like mindset and his competitiveness in leagues where, whether it's with somebody that he's close with, whether it's with high school friends or college buddies of 30 years, or some of his coworkers, it seems as though he approaches every league the same, with the same commitment, the same passion. And I mean, just to be blunt, and just to be honest, I grew up watching him. He is who got me into wanting to be into fantasy football. And so just to be able to hear him have that conversation with us and just to see it from his lens was humbling, but also exciting just to see him kind of giving back to people that are just now getting into this realm. So, no, it was just very humbling.
Yeah. What about you, Dylan? What was your big takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, along the same lines, I just think it's cool to see, and I mean this in the best way. I know it's usually used negatively, but he's just a dude that is passionate about what he does, and it's gotten him to where he's at. And it's as simple as that. And like just hopping on and the humility that he displayed of just talking, like hopping on and talking to us. And it just felt like we were just four guys in a room talking about dynasty fantasy football. And so, and like David said, it's super humbling for us. And for me, I mean, just to be able to hop on and have some of his time to just chop it up about fantasy football. I mean, he is the fantasy football guy. Like, if you play fantasy football, and you've heard of Matthew Berry. And so, it was really cool. It was a great experience. Grateful for his time and just grateful that we had the experience to do, or the opportunity to do it.
Josh, what about you?
No, I mean, first of all, it was super, super cool. And what a generous guy with his time. This is going to be the hottest take I've ever given. I felt a little bit sad for him because he talked about how there was no league he could win that was as rewarding as the career he's built, which I would totally agree with. But you heard the qualifier, which was that he's experienced. I feel like we just met the Pope, but the Pope has never experienced the same level of the love of God that I have. I would just put it that way. I was like, wow, you've done so much in your career. No, it's just like he was in Avengers. He's gotten the Infinity Gauntlet, save like maybe one piece. I was like, oh, Matthew has experienced so much. He's so cool. He is the top of the tippity top of analysts, but he doesn't have the yacht club. And that just reaffirmed my confidence in what makes us special, because he didn't talk about a league where he was like, I would rather win this league than anything else. And that's the attitude I know each one of us have. So it was super cool, but it was also grounding and eye-opening in that regard, that we really do have something special and it's meant to be protected and cherished.
No, I like that take. I also like you guys taking your time, because, see, you don't want to like overwhelm him immediately. See, not everybody's going to be like me, and it's going to be love at first sight. Like, this is his first conversation with you guys. Maybe next time you extend the invite into the yacht club. Maybe next time, and we can find somebody to kick out, right? not me, obviously, but I loved his story about me being. I think he described me as exhausting when it comes to trades, which I'm sure was right up your alley. Davis, way to take the high road, because the other reason I wanted to come and join this edition of the Dynasty Exchange and go below deck with you guys is I wanted to set the record straight. Because there have been a lot of rumors flying around about me lately. And am I exhausting? No, I'm not exhausting, because I wasn't talking to myself, Davis, about the 101. I mean, that phone call went both ways. Okay, like the negotiation takes two. So I'm no more exhausted than anybody on this call because we all take it very seriously, sometimes too seriously. A couple of things I want to set the record straight on. One, 2 episodes ago, an accusation, a slanderous accusation, a libelous accusation was bestowed upon me, suggesting that I paid money to be ranked higher in the power rankings that nobody asked for. That is utterly ridiculous. I need the source of this vicious lie smoked out. All I know is there's one person who writes the power rankings that nobody asked for. And so, Davis, do you have an idea where this may have come from, by any chance?
No, I'm not sure why you're asking me because the league.
Look, Larry David.
Office. Yeah, no. So the league office puts together the power rankings that nobody asked for. It's not me specifically. It is the league office.
You have a panel?
But no, it's just the league office. There's just a few of us, maybe 2. Maybe 3. I don't know.
By 2, you mean it's Davis and David? Is that what you mean by 2?
That's what I was insinuating. Yeah, that's what I was insinuating.
Okay, got it. Clear.
I was just going to leave that unsaid. Yeah. I was just going to leave that unsaid. But no, that was never shared with, and I denied that on the episode, Mike. I unequivocally denied that. I did not partake in that because that has not been true. And now I'm straight. I'm a straight shooter in those rankings. You get the rankings how you get them, and I'll get a call. I've gotten a straight shooter.
Josh's face was priceless. Josh, do you strenuously object at Davis being a straight shooter?
I mean, here's the thing. If it's in Davis's world, absolutely. It's his agenda will change as the markets change. This man completely flipped on trade advice to Matthew Berry 30 minutes ago. He's like, I think this, now I think this. The man moves as the markets move. I know it from experience, but I do think there's 2 people that make the power rankings that no one asked for. It's Davis and David. And if he needs a certain trade done or if he wants leverage in this. And by the way, Game respects game. I think we do attack Davis, and he should be held accountable for his antics. He never breaks the rule of the law. Because if he does, I've been waiting, as the commissioner, I have been waiting for the day where he fully steps out of line so I can nail him. This dude is a ballerina on a high wire. And that's how he's hustled. I respect it ultimately. But when I hear, oh yeah, no, I'm a straight shooter. I'm like, it like spaghetti gets wet, it ain't straight no more. That's you, bro. So
Davis, your rebuttal.
I don't have a rebuttal. I do not have a rebuttal because I think my actions and my motives speak for itself. And you want to know what's funny about the power rankings that nobody asked for is they went away, right? So they went away. There was a new source.
The first person to ask for them,
Michael Smith, and Mike calls me. Mike calls me, and I said the power rankings that nobody asked for will not exist until the people need them. And so the people asked for them back, and sure enough, they're back because nobody wants them, but everybody does. Nobody asked for them, but they all want them, right? So at some point, you can't get mad at me when it's something that's been desired. So no, I don't have a rebuttal. I'm a straight shooter as long as – I mean, I know that like you guys have seen the movie. What is it called? Is it called Wanted? Where they like bend the bullet. Yeah. No, so
I love that movie. Yeah,
I'm able to bend the bullet a little bit. Yeah, I'm able to bend the bullet a little bit. So I'm a straight shooter as long as the bullet goes where the target is. So I mean, that's all I'm saying.
Pull. That's a great pull. I love that. Okay, the second thing I need to clear up goes back to last week, Davis. It goes back to a little beef that me and you had.
Oh goodness.
Okay, I'm a fantasy degenerate, but not so much. And I want to have a larger philosophical conversation with the 3 of you. I'm a fantasy football degenerate, as we all are, but not so much that A, I would pay to be ranked higher in the power rankings that nobody asked for, or B, that I would get upset at a dear friend and fantasy football competitor over him not trading me Tyler Algier, a 3rd and a 4th. That's not what I'm not that pathetic. I mean, I would not get upset because you would not agree to that trade, nor do I get upset if somebody does not agree to a trade. It's all fair. And I'm glad we're having this conversation in the presence of Dylan and Josh, who are both big Mike Smith guys, and who I have gotten a lot of deals done in the past with, because I just want to point out a couple of things. One, Does everybody here, will you all stipulate that I have gotten more trades done since I've joined the yacht club than anybody? Is that fair?
Yeah.
That's a fact. I've got more deals done with anybody. We also stipulate that there is such a thing as a Davis tax.
Yes.
There is a Davis tax. Okay. So you put those two things together, Davis. The credibility is with yours truly on this matter. What happened was, the reason I got upset with you, and the reason I blocked your phone number, and the reason I wouldn't speak to you like a child, the reason I reacted like a child, admittedly, was because I felt like you played a game with me again. Like, I feel like sometimes you play games. Like, and I'm gonna tell you that I know you know what I'm talking about, because okay, you will put people on a trade block not because you want to trade them, but because you want to see who's on the sleeper app, which is real slick. You will put an offer in somebody's inbox and remove it immediately, not to extend the actual offer, but just to get their attention. You and I have, as many deals as we've gotten done, Davis, we have had so many round the clock, around in circle negotiations that have gone nowhere, because sometimes you just like, I'm trying to do this clean. This is a family podcast.
Straight shooter. No, say it. Okay. I can take it.
Okay. You like to blue ball people. You like to sit there and you like to tease and be like, oh yeah, all right. You'll call me up. Hey, I want Zay Flowers. Then come up with a package and I'm like, oh man, I'm interested. Can you put it in my inbox? Okay, cool. Doesn't show up in my inbox, but what does show in my inbox is a different offer than the one that we discussed. In this instance, you know who you are, Davis, and I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna let you respond. You know who you are? You're the Seattle Seahawks GM we're talking about movies in draft day. And every time I talk to you, I'm like, at least act like you called me. You were like, hey, if you want to do this trade, put it in my inbox, I would do that. Once you realize it, and go back and listen to the last episode if you want to know what I'm talking about. But once you realize that James Conner, I had no inside information on his long-term status, and you were like, yeah, put it in my inbox. We negotiated it. I said, cool. I put it in your inbox. Then this is what set me off. It was challenge on my part. This is what set me off. This is what he responded with, Dylan and Josh. Hey, bro, I appreciate it, but I'm just going to stand pat. I'm like, motherfucker, I did not engage you. You engaged me in this. Why are you acting like this was my idea and now you're rejecting me? And I told Davis ever since we traded for the one-on-one, when he acquired the one-on-one, when I first got in the league and we became best friends, I said, Davis, you like to be on top. That's what it really comes down to. You just like to be on top, you know? So that's all. So I just want everybody to know that it was a misunderstanding between me and Davis. I have forgiven him. But the fact is, Davis, you do tend to play games and waste people's time. And guess what? I love you anyway.
Are we about to get Davis or David? Let's see this.
No, I am very composed.
He took it. Yeah, absolutely.
No, I took it all. Hey, man, we've already talked through this. What I do got to say about this situation is, this is kind of a situation. It's kind of the reverse of cry wolf, or it might just be the boy that cried wolf. You know what I mean? So what I got to say with this is, usually I do play games, right? And I'll be honest. I'll be on record and I'll say it. Sometimes it is just fun. But Mike, I will say that as I start just thinking, and I may not be fully committed to something, there have been deals that have actually developed and gotten done by us just live processing.
Yep.
I will say that my intent now there are times that I do apologize, and I'm currently working on being a better person. That's why you're going to see a lot more Davis on the show. You're going to see a lot more Davis. You're not going to see as much David. You're going to see a lot of Davis on here. But that situation was not a time where I was trying to come waste your time. I was just trying to talk to my friend like, hey, man, I kind of have the itch. Yeah, I want to get a deal done. Something that you turned me down for days.
I did. No, I did. Go ahead, finish. I did. Well, actually, no. I didn't turn you down. Here's what happened. This is
where David comes out, by the way.
No, but this is another David special. Just, we don't get the facts straight, okay? That night, because I remember I was in a hotel. I forgot what city I was in for Thursday Night Football. I said, put it in my inbox. And you said, okay. You did put it in my inbox. But even though you didn't put a timer on it, it was sitting there too long. And you do not like anything sitting in somebody else's inbox. And so since it was sitting there too long, you pulled it. And then the next morning when we talked, You said, hey, what about that deal? I said, you know what? It's all good. I don't think I want to do it. So technically you pulled it, but I also said I wasn't into it at the time.
I'm just trying to figure out. I'm just trying to figure out how we got here, because the deal was around Tyler Algier. Right? This is so we came down this bunny trail because of that.
Yes.
You would think we're talking Bijan or something. We're talking Tyler Algier here.
It's the principalities. It is the principalities, and I get it, Mike. I understand. I didn't
principles. It's the principles. Principalities is a different thing.
No, Smokey. No, that's Friday.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Good Lord.
Principalities.
Smokey. Thank you. This man.
So Davis,
all I gotta. No, go down.
No, I was just going to ask you, at what point are we supposed to know when it's a Davis or a David move? Because you're talking about you're changing, you're becoming a new man. I appreciate it. I respect it. But how are we supposed to know? Like, how are we supposed to know, we're working with Davis?
That doesn't sound like a me problem. That sounds like the person on the other end.
No. Do not deflect that
just
one.
Sounds
There's
like the person. No, that sounds like the person on the other end just needs to use some discernment and some wisdom, or just don't do a deal with me.
Or just apply a tax. Or just apply a tax for the inconvenience.
Tax, a delivery fee, a service fee,
it's an import tax. It's the inconvenience.
Yeah, import tax. There literally is an embargo on me on like the majority of the franchises in this league. Josh, do you also think that I'm wrong? Or I mean,
bad question.
Yeah, no. No, it's not. It's not about like right or wrong. The problem with you, Davis, if there is a problem, is, and I think it's just an act. It's when you go, wait, what do you mean? You love the engagement. You love the rage. My only issue, like you do business a certain type of way, which is win at all costs. I will never believe any other way, because that's what you've done. I've complimented your team. I've complimented how you've worked, played the player and not the cards really, really well. But in this situation, yeah, I think you also do it because if you get in Mike's head and you get Mike emotional, he'll start making other trades. If you get a fantasy player emotional, they will start doing things that are uncharacteristic of their long-term strategy. I think it's all intentional. I think it's brilliant. But like I said already, if you ever break the rules, oh my Lord, I cannot wait for the day. The hammer of justice. But you didn't break any rules. You didn't break any rules.
Do you think that I carry that much mental real estate in everybody in this league that I can manipulate somebody's emotions to make decisions that they don't want to make?
It ain't that hard. And yes, it's not that you carry so much real estate. I love the backhanded compliment. It's like talking smack at the line of scrimmage. Most people who play fantasy never thought it would be a thing to talk smack about someone else's team, especially in a league where you have to have long-term trade relationships. You have both done that and then followed up with a willingness to be insulted and attacked, take it on the chin, and then get another deal done. Because you're doing it right now. You're like, Mike, I know exactly how you were going to finish this call. Mike, in lieu of us reaching...
Let's get a deal done.
Let's get a deal done. This is like it's the same circuit every single time.
No, I mean, listen, I'm looking to see if he offered a deal already. Davis,
I actually have Sleeper open right now. I've got Sleeper open right now.
No, Davis, they honestly, I don't know what the yacht club would be without Davis, because he wears the black hat, and no matter love him or hate him, you have to do business with him. But Josh, you just used the word that I want to drill down on, because it was used in reference to me. It was another E word. Today, Matthew Berry said I was exhausting. Last week, Davis said I was emotional, and it got me to do some self-reflection. Right? Am I an emotional trader? Is he right? I had to look in the mirror, take a long look in the mirror. I do want to have a philosophical conversation, a brief one with you guys. And Dylan, I'll start with you, because I would say I got a lot of deals done with Davis, got a lot of deals done with Josh, but Dylan is my go-to. Like, Dylan and I will every Monday and Tuesday morning, like, yo, man, what you thinking? And we find a way to get deals done. We get each other. So I'll start with you, then back to Josh and Davis. But Dylan, like, I was thinking, it's not that I'm an emotional trader. It's that I'm a principal trader. And what I mean by that is this, and I think it's why I get more deals done with everybody, than anybody, excuse me. I get more deals done than anybody, with everybody, for better or worse. Sometimes for worse. I get a lot of deals done. is because I approach other people the way that I would want to be approached. And I conduct business the way that I would want business conducted on the other end. In other words, like, I don't lowball. I go in with an offer that if I had your roster, this is the offer that would make sense to me. Even if you reject it, because how many times have I said, hey, that offer didn't insult you, did it? Like, I hope you didn't, I hope when you reject it, I'm like, hey, that was a good offer though, right? Okay, cool. All I could ask for is that it was a good offer that made you think. Secondly, I don't leverage people. I don't lie or fabricate. I don't say, hey, I got this on the table when I don't. And there's just, when it comes to communication, I'm like, hey, I'm serious about this offer, or I'm serious about this trade, let's do it. Or, hey, I'm just not open to doing that right now. But it's just, talk about a straight shooter. I like to think I'm a straight shooter. And so I do get emotional when I don't feel like that is reciprocated, Dylan. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and rightly so. I totally understand. And I think the reason why we get a lot of deals done is because we think similarly. And I'll tell you one thing, because I see this in myself as well. You're too fair. You're too fair. And that's just the reality of it. When it comes to trading, you're too fair.
That probably
you can't look out for the other. Yes, it absolutely costs you. You can't look out for other people when you're in negotiations. You got to take a little bit of David, right? You've got to have that facetious kind of, I want to win this. Now, you don't have to go and take it, to the level that David does, right? To not only just ripping you off, but then continue to insult you after he rips you off.
I don't insult people. Hold up. I don't insult people.
No.
That I'm insulting to people. I don't insult.
No. Bro, you take the time to look through rosters and you're like, hey, this trade, look how this trade didn't work out. Really concerning what's going on with this franchise. Like, you research other teams.
Davis, no matter what you say, that is a backhand. Self-awareness. Oh my God. Anyways, back to Mike.
Before you finish your point, so there's so many Davis t-shirts here. They got some stuff I want to put on the t-shirt. One is, we just got one. That's not insulting, that's self-awareness. Two, it's not a lie, it's a fabrication. But my favorite, and I haven't been on the show since this one, my favorite one is, I was essentially right. That is my favorite Davidism yet. This dude said that I knew a rookie tight end was going to pop off. I just had the wrong rookie tight end. At the time, we were talking about Laporta versus Kincaid. I was essentially right as an all-timer. Back to you, Dylan.
The man is he's a different species. But yeah, I think the issue with you, Mike, is you're too fair. I think you go in and the problem is, I also feel like you're a little bit of a justice guy. So you're right. When you're done dirty, when you feel like you've done what you can to honor the other person, which unfortunately in the yacht club, you're almost a year in now. It's a dog-eat-dog kind of world, right? It's just You got to do what you can to put yourself in position to win. And unfortunately, not everyone is going to be fair out there. So I feel like for you, you're maybe a little bit too fair. And I think you might have to – you're not emotional. I'm not going to go as far to call you emotional, but I think you're too nice in the best way.
Josh, your thoughts on this intervention? I'm receiving this intervention.
It's not an intervention. I mean, it goes back to, why do you play fantasy? Why do you play dynasty? You want to feel like you're an NFL owner. And so asking the question, how do I want my franchise to run, is a good one. But how do you also be competitive? I agree with Dylan. Dylan, you should take some of your own advice to Mike as well. The whole thing is like, are you leaving money on the table? I think there's still a respectful way to do that. But at the end of the day, you have to live with yourself first. And if your goal is to win and you're not winning, you have to change something. No matter how that is. Sometimes if you're too antagonistic, which maybe that's a lesson Davis learns at the end of the season, he may need a trade at the last second. And because he's bullied everyone into a corner where they want to see him fail, he doesn't get the same deal done. His strategy works when you accrue capital, and essentially he is the bully at the poker table. He has the highest chip count. He's always going to bid the pot up. He's going to make the deal that works. I respect it because it's a very good strategy. It could backfire. At the same time, being really like reasonable with trades, yeah, that sounds great in a vacuum until you realize, hey, this is quite literally a finite pie. There can't be two champions in the same season. This isn't like normal business where, hey, I can make money and you can make money. No. One of our teams is going to win this trade over the course of the long term. I approach every owner with, this is what I'm looking for it. I hope that works for you. That being said, I also know not to waste people's time because I don't have that same time. Like, I can't call them 15 times and work them the same way. So I try to get straight to the point. But Davis isn't wrong for his approach. I respect it. I've taken notes from it because I thought in the first 2 years, this guy's going to get bounced out of the league. No one's going to do business with him. Here we are, and Davis is ahead of all of us in the standings.
Nobody could beat him. I'm not going to get into detail about what a juggernaut his team is. David, last word on this, and then we're going to do a little live trade negotiation because I'm tilting on a particular player. Go ahead, Davis. What you got? Last word on this subject of, am I too nice? Is there such a thing as being too reasonable, too fair in trades? Because I do. Dylan is right. You called it. I want both sides to feel good about a trade.
Yeah, I mean, bro, I think you've said it all. And I think I shared my thoughts on the last episode, which you didn't take too lightly. I mean, we had some words, and we're having words right now about it. I stand by, I think that in that situation that I shared with, I was right and you were wrong. I stand by.
That is such a Davis
progress. We made so much progress. Go ahead, Dylan. Go ahead, Davis, finish. Go ahead, Davis. You stand by what, David?
Who am I, David? Davis? Dylan? I mean, who am I?
You tell us. Yeah. So you stand by the fact that you were right and I was wrong.
I stand by what I said because, not how I said it, I stand by what I said because I do think that at the end of the day, Mike, we just talked about a trade. It took you about maybe 10 minutes to put it in my inbox, and in that 10 minutes, I changed my mind. Wasn't trying to waste your time, and I think that you reacted to block my phone number to then hang up on me as I'm trying to talk to you.
That was excessive.
Thank you. That's all I need to know, and that's all I need to hear. And then I can admit that some things I do are excessive.
Did you just want this on tape? Because I told you that on the phone. You want it on tape.
Oh, yeah. Who wants the public to hear it?
Oh, okay, yeah.
You're making a mistake.
I stand victim. I stand victim to so much criticism and so much backlash that at some time I do. At some time I need my name to not be slandered. So that's all I'm saying is that I need people to at least acknowledge that I have a heart and that I am a good person.
No, okay. So I gotta jump in. No, that's the only thing. You don't get to have your cake and eat it too. At least be self-aware enough to know you're villainous and you do love wasting people's time. Mike, you can't apologize to it. This is like training a dog. What some of my parenting tips I'm learning.
Hold up a second. Wait a second.
Yeah, let me finish. You have to realize it's not positive or negative energy. Mike, if you don't want Davis to waste your time on a trade, you do gotta block his number. It's not an overreaction. It is what it is. You gotta. It's like spraying when the dog comes into a room. It's not supposed to. You spray it with the water bottle. You don't get mad at it. You don't yell at it. You don't scream to it. You just spray it and move on. That's all you gotta do.
No, this is what I'm saying. Yeah. So I think both things can be true. Davis does play games and waste a lot of people's time. That's why there's a Davis tax. Not because people are jealous of you, but because of shit like that. That's number one. Number two, at the end of the day, I blocked my man's number over Tyler Algier, a third and a fourth, which is hilarious and childish. And all I did was just call him and cuss him out instead of going the lengths that I did. I own that. But the reason I love this story, and we'll leave this story here and do this negotiation before we wrap up, is I think what it does, and Davis, you talked about it, we talked to Matthew Berry. This is what unites us. This is the tie that binds. We are all degenerates. We all take this way too seriously and way too personally, which is why this is the best league in the world and the best podcast about dynasty fantasy football in the world. So having said that, actually, I got two pieces of advice. There's a live negotiation. I just want y'all advice on something. Since Matthew Berry asked y'all for advice, wow, by the way, Michael Smith is going to ask y'all for some advice. Because I was talking to another owner in the league, and I was just talking about, because why you laughing? What'd I do?
No, it's like you.
Well,
it's Davis.
Davis slid it in. He goes, you said Matthew Berry. Davis went like this, and then he said Michael Smith asked your advice. Davis just went like that.
I did that. No, I didn't. You're muted, Davis. This is great. No, stay muted. Actually, this is great.
This is wonderful. That went so smooth.
Hold up a second. Thank the Lord. No.
it first. Yeah, and then you repeated what I did.
Thank you.
Oh wait, but Davis.
Thank you. I'm vindicated.
But Davis, so this is an accidental genius here. So around the horn, that's my first show on ESPN I ever did. That was the mute button, and the best part was somebody was muted and they'd still be talking. The highlight of this entire conversation is you screaming while muted. That's actually the new way you should do the show. It was really good. It was really good.
I agree.
It was really good. But no, he did the same thing I did. I said the same thing because it was Matthew Barrett, for crying out loud. What do I do with A-Rich? I haven't talked to y'all since A-Rich, my 104, my franchise foundation, went under the knife for season-ending surgery. I was talking to another owner because I'm kind of like borderline in a position. I don't have my 24 first, but I could maybe sneak into the playoffs in the 7th spot in our 14-team league. Should I consider seeing what I could get for A-Rich now? Now that we've seen enough, we presume that most people have seen enough from him as a passer. Obviously, the injuries are somewhat concerning, but, the biggest question about him was, could he succeed as a passer, which I think he showed enough of, at least according to Davis in the last episode, or 2 episodes ago, I beg your pardon. Davis, should I put A-Rich on the market and see about liquidating that asset, or just hold him and, hope he comes back healthy and continue to build around him next season?
I think he fits your timeline.
Okay.
I think he fits your timeline perfectly. And I think you've been on record saying this too. Where you get hurt in any dynasty player in general is when they try pivoting when they shouldn't be pivoting, right? So if you see, I could maybe sneak in there to get the 7 seed, but you've already said like multiple times, you've had a team that you thought could be good and that could compete. But then at the end of the day, you're like, all right, a championship probably, like if you're saying I could probably sneak in as a 7 seed, then you probably know the direction that you should take your team. And if so, then my guess would be that the other players that you're getting don't fit the mold of, for context for everybody listening, you have A-Rich and CJ Stroud. We were robbed of a top 4 dynasty quarterback season this year. Like with A-Rich. I mean, I said that a couple episodes ago, but we were robbed of that. So when he does come back, he's going to be the same exact player he was. And you have CJ Stroud, who's a top 10 dynasty quarterback, probably top 8. So you have 2 perennial superstars that are 22 who for the next 10 years can be on your team, and you don't have to worry about that position in a 14-team league. So you don't have your pick, but the majority of the league doesn't have their pick. So for me, if I'm you, it would take a haul to get Anthony Richardson. Yeah, it would take a haul. Yeah.
Dylan, can I get that haul? You think in your club, or I'm better off just holding?
You're probably better off just holding, but I will tell you what I would do. I would do, because the same manager that has your first also has a Kyler Murray. So I wouldn't be if I were you, I wouldn't be opposed to trying to make a move like that, seeing if you could pull that off. Listen, you know how much I love me some A-Rich, but if you could get your first back on top of a Kyler Murray, for a quarterback who's younger, so you can kind of sell him with that. But I personally would be trying to look for a move like that, but nothing less.
Good luck with that team.
There's absolutely nothing else I would do, but yes, good luck getting that done. But I would do absolutely nothing else though. Otherwise, I'm just holding A-Rich.
Josh, you're the bank in 2025. What say you, my friend?
Yeah, I think knowing your league, I think it's been a theme throughout the show, knowing the environment you're in. If you could sell high, and I mean really sell high at his peak value, you should. But there's maybe 2 buyers that could afford him that would fit your timeline, and both those buyers are going to charge you. I mean, I'll speak for myself. I will scalp you in the price point. I will only buy if it's a discount. And that's just where I'm at. It's not a disrespect. It's just that's how I have to win. So I would hold on to him because I don't think he's going to disappear from value. I think he's a young QB who only showed that he was a fantasy great on the field. That being said, if someone else was in a different league, I've always said this, if I'm only going to get $10 more on a $200 or a $500 parlay, cash out the parlay. Don't risk it just to walk it in. So if someone offers you 3 firsts plus, if someone offers you Kyler Murray in a first, I think you should take it, because now, no matter what happens with A-Rich, it's not like he would have gone up much more in value. So, but in our league, I don't think you're going to be able to sell him.
Here's the one thing. I don't want to harp too long on this, but Josh, I get what you were saying just about you're not sure his value could go up too much more. I think A-Rich is an anomaly. I mean, he is the type of quarterback that puts himself with Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and Pat Mahomes. Like he is that type of quarterback alongside Shane Steichen. And like I've said this before, the 3 games he played, 2 of those games, he was a top 3 fantasy quarterback. So as a rookie, first year in the offense, like we haven't even sniffed the ceiling. And I get that he had the injury, and I get that the injury questions are a thing. But Mike, you're holding on to an asset that as you sell it, you could be getting maybe 50% of what he eventually could be. I truly believe he could be a top 3 dynasty quarterback.
Yeah, I agree.
Then I'm looking for the next A-Rich. Okay, before we wrap this episode up, I am looking to move on from Christian Watson. We have been. I knew it. You knew it? How'd you know? How'd you know?
Because I just figured. I know you, and I know that Christian Watson is available because you and I have talked.
And for full context, so as of this recording, I don't know. Have you guys seen an update on his injury status? I haven't seen anything. Okay, we all saw the unfortunate penultimate play against the Broncos where he hobbled off and seemed to be in pain. So his health is once again in question, but he's still 24 years old. He's still a borderline top 25 dynasty receiver on keep trade cut. I just don't. I'll be honest, and this is okay, Dylan. This goes back to being too fair and too transparent and too forthcoming. I would rather just take a loss, and by take a loss, I mean earlier this season when he was out with the hamstring, I traded a 24 first, a projected late 24 first, but a 24 first nonetheless, and those are super rare in the yacht club, just in terms of moving 24 first. Like one team has hoarded, I think, 8 of them. Projected late 24 first to Davis, along with Dylan's 24 second, which respectfully looks better by the week. I traded both of those for Christian Watson, but I'm at the point now where I don't have a whole lot of patience. And I think I could maybe, like I said, sneak into the playoffs. So without compromising the rest of my team, I know, Dylan, you're probably moving on from productively struggling to, all right, I got to take the long view. Josh, you're taking the really long view in 2025. So I called Dylan earlier. I have not talked to him since. This is happening in real time. I called Dylan earlier, and I said, hey, are you still interested in Christian Watson? Because we've been talking about him for a while. And he said, yes, but not at the same price point. I said, no, obviously not. I would not dare come to you looking to recoup that same value, given that, the last time we saw him, he was limping off the field. So I said, how about my second and Davis's second, which is probably going to be the last pick in the second round of a 14-team league at this rate. And that's a loss because I traded again a first and a second, but I'm at the point where I just don't have a whole lot of patience. And I think I just want to move on. So, Dylan, ball is in your court, my friend.
Yeah. So like you said, we haven't talked about it since earlier when you brought it up. I personally don't think it's a terrible deal. I mean, to give some context, I've got quite a few seconds in that league, in the yacht club. So 7, right? I don't think what was that?
Is it 7 24 seconds you have now?
Yes, 7 24 seconds. Yep, 7 24 seconds. So I've got 7 of them. And yeah, like Davis's is projected to be later. Yours right now looks like it's a mid to early, depending on which direction you decide to go. And it's your second, so you have control over it. So I understand why you want to do it. The hang up for me is on that team, I also have Jaden Reed. So that's the only hang up for me, right? And that's what I told you earlier was what my sticking point was. And also, obviously, the injury.
If it's just starting a lineup, well, the injury is obviously a concern.
So that's what I was about to say as well.
His price has been dinged, but the Jaden Reed thing, sorry to cut you off, is only like if you don't want to start 2 Packers receivers. This for you, correct me if I'm wrong, is more of an asset thing at this point in your build.
And that's exactly what I was about to say is I think for me, this move would be, you're right. In that league, I'm moving away from a productive struggle and just like kind of, I'm gonna have to commit to this rebuild with whatever assets. We talked with Matthew Berry earlier. The league dynamic we have, it's just not easy to get your hand on really any assets right now from a pick standpoint. And so it would hurt giving up 2 seconds, but I think I would commit to doing the trade because I feel like I can get at least, if not the equivalent down the road, because he's still 24. If I panicked and I was out on him or whatever, I feel like I could still go and get that in return for him.
Yeah, from the guy sitting next to you. Walsh.
Yeah, the guy, yeah. So I mean, Walsh would be someone that I would look down the road because he has. You still have Jordan Love in that league, right? You still have Jordan. Yeah, you still have Jordan Love. Yeah. So I mean, and I have Jaden Reed too. So
Walsh is the most patient manager in the entire league.
He is.
So he'll wait. Walsh will wait for somebody to develop. Walsh, would you like to respond, or Davis? You have an idea? I think you're gonna have your wheels turning, Davis.
I do have an idea. You just said, Mike, that you were looking to sneak into the 7th spot, and that's why you were thinking of doing this trade. Why would you not then just go and see maybe if you could flip Christian Watson for Christian Kirk, a player who maybe has more value in the current immediate, but I think Christian Watson carries a more long-term dynasty value. So that's something that I'm trying to figure out is there a deal to be done when it comes to that?
Look at Davis. Look at that. I thought Josh was the broker. Look at Davis.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I had not thought about that because I was kind of thinking more long term. I know, Dylan, you're a big Christian Kirk guy. You're a big Mike Smith guy, but you're a big Christian Kirk guy. I've been listening to the podcast. You've been on Christian Kirk way before everybody else. Is that something you would consider potentially?
So probably not, because I wouldn't trade an asset like a receiver like that for another receiver who I see similarly. I understand, yes, the long-term value is in favor of Christian Watson, but just with what I'm trying to do and keep a team, I think Christian Kirk has long-term relevance still. I don't think he's just the 2 to 3 year guy. I think he could be beyond that. And even if he is 2 to 3 years, like I can still do that. He's still younger. He's like 27, 28, I believe. He's younger. So I wouldn't do that. I would
attach to a good quarterback
with the contract attached to a younger quarterback. Exactly.
Yeah. And if nothing else, being the man of God that you are, that all of you are, you just want to keep all the Christians is what you're trying to do. Like
all the Christians, Christian brothers.
You see what I did there, Walsh? You see what I did there? Okay. All right. So the 2 seconds is something you would do?
It's in your inbox.
Oh, it's in my inbox. Walsh, what do you think?
I heard your phone buzz. I heard it go.
You've been silent, Walsh. What do you think about this move? Am I panicking? Am I panicking right here?
I mean, I don't know about panic. The thing about you, man, is like I don't want to mess with your strategy because it works for you and it's unique. Like you are constantly fixing and flipping, and I've told you need capital with which to do that. If you're looking for a price match from me because you're very politely trying to create a bidding war, you're doing it the right way.
No.
I would also do 2 seconds, and I'd throw in a third, but I wouldn't go much past that because Dylan can hold the risk of Christian Watson for me. I have enough money to buy him whenever I want to when I'm competing, which is not this year or next year. So I'll go to 2 seconds and a third just because I love having him. I love having the stack. Maybe that's marketable, but I won't go a single pick past that.
Are those 24 seconds?
Mike.
Yes.
Hey, Mike, how about a 25 first for Christian Watson and James Conner?
Oh, interesting.
Oh,
James,
no.
Beef first started, as I recall, right?
I'm getting bamboozled.
James Conner.
This is the danger of doing a live trade negotiation.
I know.
Christian
Dangerous.
Watson. Ooh, that's intriguing.
I just want to point out, Mike, you're doing the exact same antics Davis is doing, but you're wrapping them in such a respectable way.
No, he's doing
like,
much more graciously.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's a pleasure to do this business.
Hold on,
Yeah. For audio only, Mike is going crazy behind a muted camera.
That is literally Davis.
His mind.
So I will say, let me put it like this, Mike. Let me put it like this. I get Davis's offer, right?
That's a good offer.
We don't know if it's better than the 25.
25. No, I'm just going to put some, context to it a little bit. So 25 first, right? We don't know where that's going to be. It could be a mid. Let's just call it a mid 25 first for now. Who's 25 first? Is it Davis?
Sunny D.
So let's call it a mid.
It's late. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fair to call him mid to late.
Sean doesn't look good.
Let's just say you can get Luther Burden there, right? Who's a college athlete right now, or you can come get 220.
Only this dude. First of all, we just who?
This man said
Luther Burden. Or you can come get 224 seconds and probably the best wide receiver class, deepest wide receiver class we've seen in the last 5 years. I'm just saying. Or you can come get that. and re-roll it that way. And the chances of those guys hitting with the 2:24 seconds, you could probably get Christian Watson back later on.
All right, let me ask you this, because we're getting the Oscars music to wrap this baby up. We're going this. I'm gonna just go ahead and say, episode 19, best episode in show history. And I got one thing I'm gonna tell you all about the Matthew Berry interview before we hang up. Okay. So Davis is up the ante. Josh is up the ante. Dylan, you have a couple of young pieces, not even young pieces, I'm going to say useful pieces, I beg your pardon, that caught my eye as I was looking at your roster earlier that would be really nice sweeteners that I don't think you're necessarily counting on. All right? One, Darrell Henderson, who you picked up and has a role in the Rams backfield. The other one is a guy that's in your taxi squad named Jake Bobo. Yeah.
Yes, Jake Bobo.
So,
yeah,
and I think those guys could be useful, maybe.
You mean the wide receiver 3 in Seattle, Jake Bobo, right? The wide receiver 3. Yeah, not JSN. It's Jake Bobo, the wide receiver 3 in Seattle.
Okay, all right. So yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to come up off of little player that.
Let me tell you this, because
the guys you picked up on waivers smartly, because that's how you work. You work the waiver wire. Nice.
So I will go ahead, since these guys came in and rained on my parade, to get this deal done right here, right now, before we sign off. If I add Darrell Henderson to this deal, 2 seconds and Darrell Henderson, do we have a deal?
No Bobo first.
No Bobo.
No Bobo. You want both of them? How about this? I'll do Calvin Austin also.
No, I got him in another league. I'm good. I got enough shares of Calvin Austin.
He wants the one.
Never immediately respond, Dylan. You just tell him you have more to give. You should have just been like, no.
Oh.
You don't need Jake.
He wants the one.
He wants the one?
The one is attractive. The one is very attractive. The one is very attractive.
The ones are always attractive.
And 25 first, and so it's Watson and Connor for the 25 first.
Correct.
That's I think I might have misspoke that earlier. Yeah. That's interesting. What you think,
man
Dylan?
Of the hour.
It's like we're playing poker right now.
Mm-hmm.
So you said you would do Darrell Henderson.
Mm-hmm.
What's a Jake Bobo?
What's a Jake Bobo?
What would Matthew Berry do? What would Matthew Berry do?
That's a good question. Let's lock it out.
That's pregnant. Ooh! It's in my inbox, Davis. You ain't putting nothing in my inbox. This man is serious.
Right.
This is because what you talked about earlier. Davis is all flirting. He's all the intentional friends phase and drops you.
Mike, if you want the deal in your inbox, I'll put it in your inbox right now, and I'll have you make a choice. Unless you just want to accept his deal.
Find out in the next episode of the Dynasty Exchange which deal Michael did. But before I let y'all go, y'all want a real deal tonight. I texted Matthew and I said, can't thank you enough, man. That was awesome. I had fun watching you guys. And he responded, good group. Get why you are excited about them. So there you go.
Special. Thank you, sir.
You guys are my one-on-one. All right, all three of you. My one-on-one. Love you guys. This is a watershed moment. Go celebrate, and we will see everybody, or you will see us and hear from these guys, not me, Friday morning for episode 20 of Michael Smith Presents The Dynasty Exchange.
Dynasty the King.